A game that'll make you have a fear of events your whole life? Let's find out. Video games have been trying to scare us since the early 80s. There have been a number of different horror games that have continued to pave a path for the horror games that are available now. For today's video, we've gathered a list of what you think are the scariest horror games that were ever made. So hold on to your horses, and let's dive right into the video. At number 5, Resident Evil 4. Many words have been said about how Resident Evil 4 brought more of an action movie feel to the horror genre, and promoted a more cinematic style that stood in blunt contrast to more regular survival horror titles of the original Resident Evil helped popularize. The significance of the game's contributions in that respect can't be exaggerated. Yet, it's easy to forget that Resident Evil 4 remains a truly frightening game. In lieu of making you feel completely helpless, Resident Evil 4 delivers its frights in a series of sequences that test your newfound abilities with overwhelming horrors. You may be able to control your weapon more freely in Resident Evil 4 than you could before, but when you're being chased down by a bulky figure wielding a chainsaw, the precision aim is cold comfort. Number 4, Outlast. The second game on our list is Outlast. While Resident Evil and other early horror hits were suitably labeled as survival horror, the survival element in those titles typically revolved around handling limited resources. Even modern survival games are still largely about item management. The appropriately named Outlast takes a different approach to survival horror. Yes, it does deprive you of resources. Your battery-hungry camera is equal parts annoying and sadly your only real weapon. But surviving Outlast is really about finding a way to spiritually overcome the game's persistent scares. Some may rightfully ask what's so fun about a game that's largely consisting of hiding and running through the dark, but the genre veterans will see. Outlast is a test of their determination and wit. The joy of Outlast doesn't necessarily come from playing it or even beating it, but from getting to say you survived it. At number 3, Silent Hill 2. Next up we have Silent Hill 2. Ask gamers what they remember about the first Silent Hill, and they'll likely say the fog. Granted, that game's fog-filled streets can partly be attributed to the PlayStation's terrible draw distance, but there's no denying the efficiency of making a player feel like they never know what's around the corner. Silent Hill 2 relies a little bit on the fog, but secures its status as debatably the most intimidating horror game ever made by appealing to the similar feelings of uncertainty. The game's complex psychological narrative loses you grip on reality while you find the instinctive terror of creations such as Pyramid Head that you'll find no comfort in whatever answer you may uncover. At number 2, Alan Wake. For our next game we have Alan Wake. Though you don't need the physical disc to actually play this game nowadays, it would not be a horror game list without Alan Wake. The horror game took a look at Silent Hill and tried to improve upon the story. The setting, as implied in Silent Hill, is a work of fiction made up entirely by the mind of Alan Wake. Wake is a writer caught in the middle of his own creation. Every enemy is an exhibition of his own imagination and parts of his life. Though in Silent Hill it is less of the main character's own design than it is a really terrible coping mechanism. Much like many other horror games, Alan Wake does not use a weapon to attack enemies or ghosts. Instead, Wake uses a flashlight to burn the enemies away, reveal who they really are, regrets, unresolved grievances, etc., and then destroys them. Though some might argue that the flashlight functions in the same way as a gun would, the metaphor is more important. And at number 1, Alien Isolation. This would not be a correct horror list without mentioning Alien Isolation. This game is a horror survival like no other before it. It's basically playing like a giant game of hide and seek between you and a xenomorph. In this game, you really felt like you didn't have anything to do. You didn't run fast enough, the big black alien would surely kill you. You may have a gun, but the game is specifically guarded to make sure you hardly use it. Alien Isolation does this by limiting your ammo, crafting materials, and making the enemies able to take a lot of damage. This makes for stealth strategies. Anyway, that's what wraps up for our video for today. Which horror game is the scariest for you guys? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.